Solving day 9, Advent of Code 2023, Mirage Maintenance. Ride the camel through the sandstorm and stop where the ghost map told you to stop. Sandstorm subsequently subsides. Standing at an oasis. The camel goes to get some water and you stretch your neck. As you look up, you discover what must be yet another giant floating island. This one made of metal. That must be where the parts to fix the sand machines come from. There's even a hand glider partially buried in the sand here. Once the sun rises and heats up the sand, you might be able to use the glider and the hot air to get all the way up to the metal island. While you wait for the sun to rise, you admire the oasis hidden here in the middle of the desert island. It must have a delicate ecosystem. You might as well take some ecological readings while you wait. Maybe you can report any environmental instabilities you find to someone so the oasis can be around for the next sandstorm warned traveler. You pull out your handy oasis and sand instability sensor and analyze your surroundings. The oasis produces a report of many values and how they are changing over time. Your puzzle input. Each line in the report contains the history of a single value. To best protect the oasis, your environmental report should include a prediction of the next value in each history. To do this, start by making a new sequence from the difference at each step of your history. If that sequence is not all zeros, repeat this process using the sequence you just generated as the input sequence. Once all of the values in your latest sequences are zero, you can extrapolate what the next value for the original history should be. In the about dataset, the first history is this first row because the value increases by 3 each step. The first sequence of differences that you will generate will be 333 adjacent differences. Note that this sequence has one fewer value than the input sequence because at each step it considers two numbers from the input. Since these values aren't all zeros, repeat the process. Okay. This means you have enough information to extrapolate the history, which really means the sequences can be arranged like this. Fine. To extrapolate, start by adding a new zero at the end of your list of zeros because the zeros represent the difference between the two values above them. This also means there is now a placeholder in every sequence above it. You can then start filling in placeholders from the bottom up. A needs to be the result of increasing 3 by 0 the value above it. And same must be 3. Finally, you can fill in B. It needs to be the result of increasing 15. So the next value of the first history is 18. Finding all zero differences for the second history requires an additional sequence. 136. Okay, this is difference 2 and 3 and 4, 5 and 6. Then following the same process as before, work out the next value in each sequence from the bottom up. Okay, for each of these given rows, we need to find what the next value should be for each of them. To do this, what we do is we essentially find out these sequences. There can be arbitrarily large number of them, and start from the bottom, add a 0, then add whatever value that produces that difference. So let's say there was x here and we added a 0, then x minus 1 is 0, hence x is 1. So this became 1, and above that we have, let's say, right of 6 we have, say, y, then y minus 6 is 1, y minus 6 is 1, hence y is 7, and so on. The third history requires even more sequences, but the next value can be found the same way. So the next value of the third history is 68. If you find the next value for each history in this example, add them together, you get 114, 68, 28, and 18. Analyze your OSS report and extrapolate the next value for each history. What is the sum of these extrapolated values? They have given us a simulation, but I hope it converges quickly. Otherwise, there won't be any point to write a brute force solution. So we are given this sequences. The numbers are even power 10 raised to 6, 10 raised to 7, and here it is almost 10 raised to 7. Okay, so one thing that we can think of is there must be some formula to arrive at this, right? So let's write something down. Create day 9, 9.txt. Let's take this example. Let's say we are given any example, let's say A1, A2. Then the next sequence would be A2 minus A1, 3 minus A2, A4 minus A3. After that it would be like this. So 3 minus A3 minus A2 minus this, hence this would be plus A4 minus A3 minus plus A5 minus A4 minus this plus 6 minus A5 minus this, hence this will be plus, and nothing after that. I'm doing this once again. Minus A3 plus 2 A2 minus A1. This becomes minus four minus what is that? 3 plus 2a2 minus a1. So this is iteration 1 and this is iteration 2. There are two more terms here. This is iter 3. And if we rearrange this, we get minus a1 plus 2a2 minus 3a3 plus a4. Contains 4 terms. Iteration 1 contains 2 terms. I don't think we need to go in that direction. The question is clear, but I'm trying to find out if there are any mathematical observations that can formulate this term. Let's try brute force for this part and let's see. get the numbers one after the other, then we add a number at the end as well. Let's see if the input is correct. First of all, 0, 3, 15, 20, 45. Okay. Now for each row, we need to solve for this row. We take in the row, then we need to find the sequence of differences. To do that, I will so the thing is, we only need the last element of new sequence, right? But for now, let's say we take all of them. We can optimize later. Let's say depth rows, or I can call it differences. And after this, I will have to do this until all the elements in diff are not 0. So there should be a vector of int. Okay. Diff for this would be from 1 to size of should be size of previous row, right? So the last row would be this one, and from that we will create this new row which would have the differences of adjacent values as diffs dot back of I minus diffs dot back of I minus 1. Const vector of int by reference row. Okay, is true for index in row. Okay, checked with 0 return. Okay, then once these differences are found, I will push them in the list. Okay, let's check what is the computed rows. Zero 369 12 15, then 333, then 0, but we haven't inserted that. Is that the case? Next up we have 1 3 6 10 15. That's fine. And we haven't even inserted 1 1 1 after that. Just diff insert. Okay, this should be not check. 3 then 0. Okay, now I will start from the second last, and the value that we are going to put here would be x. So x minus 3 is the last value of the next row. So what we will do now, start from the second last, which must be size of divs minus 2, all of them all the way to the start. The value that will be added here would be x minus the previous last value of this plus the this tips of I dot back plus tips of I plus 1 dot back, and this will be added in tips of I. Let's check the values now, and let's do one thing. Let's start with the last one. If I is this index, we push back a 0 because that is what is asked in the question. Else we do this logic. Two 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 468, 1523, and 68, 18, 28, and 68, right? 18, 28, 68, okay. Let's collect them. Answer is dips of 0 dot back. There are negative values here as well, so I have not considered that while passing the input. So I think we need to handle that. What I can do is, if I encounter a hyphen, I will keep a flag as negative. Negative is true. If we are here, then negative again becomes false. And if it was a negative number, then we add a minus sign, and we add a plus sign. And we need to do the same here as well. So copy, paste. So whenever we find a space, that means the number has been, let's say this thing, this number was constructed. It will this will always have a positive number, but we will store this sign as true or false in this variable. And if it's a negative, then add negative with 0. Digit will simply append a digit at the right, and if it's a hyphen, then we say that it's negative. Fine. Let's check now. Let's try it on the last test case. Okay, surprisingly runs very fast. That's the right answer. Let's move on to part 2 now. Copy so.cpp part 1.cpp. Of course, it would be nice to have even more history included in your report, so let's have to just extrapolate backward as well, right? For each history, repeat the process of finding the differences until a sequence of differences is entirely 0. Rather than adding a 0 to the end and filling the next values of each previous sequence, you should instead add a 0 to the beginning of a sequence of zeros, then fill in the new first values for each of the previous sequences. Particularly is what the third example history looks like when extrapolating back in time. Adding new values. Okay, so 10, 13, we keep this as it is, and instead of adding them at the end, we add them at the front. So we add a 0 here. Now if this was x, then 2 minus x would be 0, and hence x would be 2. Then 0 minus x, so this was x is equals to 2. 0 minus x is equals to 2, hence x is minus 2. Likewise, adding values on the left side of each sequence from the bottom to the top eventually reveals the new leftmost history value as 5. Doing this for the remaining example data above results in the previous values of -3 for the first history, 0 for the second history, adding all of them. And as a analyze your OSS report again, this time extrapolating previous value for history. Okay, let's do the same process. It's literally the same thing. And instead of doing this, we add it to the start, right? Should I use a DQ instead of doing that? Sure, DQ. And let's say DQ from vector. Does this work? Let's get this DQ as well. Where all get, how do we get the error? This row should be also a DQ. Okay, all the operations remain same. Then this should be a DQ, and we can add it in here now. Now this difference should be also DQ, and this one fine. Now these differences are generated. We start from the last and we push to the front 0, else what was that? So this was x, and so the first value would be, sorry, this minus x. So let's say this was x, this was f, and the next was second, or let's say this would be diffs of I dot front, and this would be diffs of I plus 1 dot front. Let's say this is A, this is B, then B must be A minus x, hence x would be A minus B. And what we need to add now is diffs of I dot front minus diffs of I plus 1 dot front. And we need to add it to the front, so push front, and we take the first value of the first row. The answer for this is 1, which should be 2. Looks correct. Let's try it on the last test case. 1152, fairly small answer. Done. Let's clean up. Thing here, everything here. Fine, let's remove everything else. 9.txt, I didn't find any proper insights or something, so I will remove that as well. We have these two: git status, add current directory, all the files in the current directory, git commit, day9, git push, share it on Twitter. That's it. I'm closing the stream. Thank you for watching.